Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief. And the first thing we're going to do is remove the Abbotsford APD top investigators, elite man at the top, and we're going to put them on the unemployment list for the organized crime they were doing in Abbotsford, a buddy-buddy system. When Darren Braun, Henry's son, the economic development officer, showed what the city of Abbotsford was being used for, and the people and the elites at the top were benefiting to enrichate themselves, I took it to the best, the RCMP mission, and never looked back. Abbotsford and myself owe a lot of people a big thanks. People that fight for our democracy, our elections, but also for our residents and families. What the Abbotsford Task Force did to Councillor Mogil, the South Asian, that white collar crime's got to be called out all day. What they did in Yale Secondary and beaten up. The things they were doing behind the scenes got to be cut. We can't have this shit of, well, we got somebody coming in and doing that. They took it out of the control of the general public. Henry did at the city. Henry collaborated with the majority of council for development and was using the city as an ATM bank machine. But Henry had Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung, the MP and the MLA, which were his best friends. It explains itself as you can see them all scattering and running. But the emphasis of the Abbotsford police saying, well, you need to keep us, we're so big, really. Well, we need to go back and tell the people that have got meth labs, well, we need to keep you and let you back out because you got customers. The Abbotsford men and women that worked in that uniform brutalized my town, and it needs to be called out. Today, I'm back here on my farmers. Some people are saying that I took it for a promotion, for just to push Ross down and that. No, I'm about my farmers. I grew up in the Fraser Valley. I know Otto Dykeman. I know the DeGroots. I know Barrowtown. I knew them all, Quadlands and everywhere. The neglect that happened here when George Ferguson was mayor, he was a servant of the people. He put town hall meetings together and he had the Dike Committee and the Ditch Committee, which was instated for the safety of our farmers. Henry Braun dismantled it and started taking the resource and money for himself and taking the people that Henry didn't see eye to eye and getting them off and out of the city. When the 2021 flood hit, and they had plenty of time to restake the Dike and Ditch Committee, drain the ditches, and I made it clear that the former mayor, Bruce Bamman, knew the pumps were failing and they needed services, and Henry was not, there's never going to be a flood, and not draining and ditches and everything else. The resources of Abbotsford going after the federal money for the infrastructure is to fill their boots on gravel pits and their friends. That's quite obvious when Carney didn't pick up the phone. It's quite obvious when David Eby came in here, went to Barrowtown and said, why is all them rocks? By Jake's contracting in behind sandbags. They did nothing to protect the Sumas border with rocks or dirt you can get from job sites and bring in and protect and mitigate the flood over closer to the dike. They didn't do nothing. Now they're going to have all the answers. So let me tell you what needed to be done after the 21 flood was send them drones up, take an aerial shot of where that water's coming in from the nuke sack, make sure we can contain it. We know we're building bigger. We got more runoffs. We got more houses and everything. But the four farmers were being pushed and broken apart, and you can see it. 99% of my farmers that I talk to know that they're not being dialogued, they're sat down and they're asking the former mayor, Bruce Bamman, that's the conservative, and hopefully he's going to stand up and run for the leadership. Abbotsford wants to see that too, to get in here and get dialogue done. Why is that being happened? When in 2021 flood, Henry Braun went out to Mary Musqueam and threatened the old lady and said, listen, he didn't want no controversy or anything that would slam him or bring him to the eyes, that he was going to steal the bank account, and said, let water be under the bridge. Because them farmers brought me to it, and I stood by it and still stand by it. My farmers need the resources, and it needs it directly from the provincial and the federal government to be into a private committee and given to the farmers to help them after the devastation. They had no warning on the second one. They need legal representation to sue Ross and Abbotsford councils for the criminal neglect. And you can see them shit kickers, Dave Lowens, that's Henry's lackey, always promoting Ross. We got to promote and protect Ross. Couldn't even go out and sit with the farmers and say, what do you need? Where are you suffering? And get them together. They keep them separated and broken, kind of like Henry was doing to the Abbotsford homeowners when he damaged their homes. This bank account was too big. Henry's temptation The devil awarded him the city and he couldn't refuse it. The man had to go after it all. First, we need leadership, but the first thing we got to do is remove the Abbotsford police so people can speak freely and tell about the threats and the scamming. And we don't want farmers, if you come forward and you say anything, I'm going to bankrupt you. You say anything to hit that. We know they're going to work through the back doors. They're going to start taking pictures, find a few of their friends on the farmers. Oh, Ross and this farmer, they got to promote him, and they got to do this and try to make him look good. We need our U.S. neighbors also to lean in and say, you know what? The suffering of Abbotsford farmers is just shameful what took place. Not only at the provincial and federal government in the in-house bickering that nobody's has put their boots down on the ground and said, listen, we're going to get proper people in here. We're going to get people that we know where the money is and we're going to trace it. Not that bloody Archway Community Services that's tied to the establishment that raised all that money for the farmers. Rob Santiago dreasened the city councillor and went and took it and spent it. If I was mayor, I'd make sure everything Rob Santiago's got, even his boots and his socks and his underwear, sold off and given to the farmers to replant, get their animals back, get the hay back in and get them back up and going. This is what the farmers need. But they're keeping the farmers separated and broken down. But they all can get together. All the leaders can get together and they can do videos on the highway and the infrastructure where they need money for. And they need money. But none of them can put the farmers together because they're internally fighting. We need the farmers to start realizing there's people in Abbotsford that got a voice for you and will stand up and fight for you. I'm one of them people. And I'm sure that the former Mayor Bruce Bamman and many other people will be there. You can see it. Former John Van Doggen was a farmer, and he knows the hurt that the farmers are going through. I was never here about points to score with the farmers or point to score here. I'm here about the wrong, the fraud in my city, the threats on my residents by an elite establishment. But let me tell you how this all began. It all began under Henry Braun as the ringleader and mastermind. It was pretty good when he was stealing all that stuff for the funkstermicing, changing zoning. But the first thing we need is we need dialogue for our farmers. We need to show our farmers that there is leaders there that will put down, have a town hall meeting and sit you down and say where you're suffering. Ross can't do it. He's waiting for Henry's orders from Dave Lowens. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to get Vicky Hopes to write an article about that infrastructure and everything else. I can tell Abbotsford, the major disaster, the second one, the farmers didn't see coming and everything. Even the Prime Minister of Canada, Carney, didn't pick up the phone to Ross and say, what do we need? Because he knew right now, and no if, buts, or maybes. The lazy buggers haven't done nothing since the 2021. They tugged their rocks to Gladys Avenue. They've been stealing the city bank account. They're running the town with the Abbotsford private police, filling their own pockets in their shoes. It was foregone conclusion. The rocks by Jake's contracting out there. Nothing's been done at the U.S. border. Nobody's put town hall meetings together and negotiations or nothing. Ross figured it was never going to happen. So, what do we need to do? We need to bring experts in that know this stuff, and what we'll do is we'll take an aerial shot with their drones. We'll see how the water dissipated out of here so fast, how we can mediate the water, what we look forward to the nuke sack when the nuke sack's increasing its thing. You're never going to stop Mother Nature, and you can blame the U.S. for all it's want, the nuke sack, and try to get points. If the nuke sack ain't doing its part, well, we're going to make sure that our job sites haul the dirt by the border here, and we're going to protect it itself, and then that way the water will back flood in there. But that didn't need to be done. We raised money in the name of fraud for construction job sites like the Abbotsford Police Building, the cost overrun, the $14 million Ross spent it. All this we raised in the name of that. And we couldn't put secondary pumps in and drain this water out and clean that sludge out of them ditches. It wasn't. They were too busy with their agenda and stealing out of Abbotsford. And if I can go in and get in that uniform, when I'm in that uniform, nobody can charge me or prosecute me. Then I can run roughshod on you, beat you up, and shut your mouth. I'm here for my farmers. I'm here for Abbotsford. And I'm going to make sure that Abbotsford has a voice again, loud and clear and strong. So I'm calling on my BC Conservatives. I'm calling on One BC, and I'm calling even on David Eby. You got to help the farmers directly. You got to bypass the shit in the Abbotsford city that's stealing even the Eby's money, just stealing it. My opinion, Eby probably rocked out to the pump station, said, Ross, what the hell you been doing with my money? What have you been doing, you lazy bugger? I might be going into an election. It shows that I've been incompetent. No, Eby wasn't incompetent. Eby just didn't know they were going to steal from him. Oh, Eby, please, the infrastructure, the gravel, the highway, please, 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 infrastructures, gravel and highway. I'm live, Abbotsford, British Columbia.